There's something about 2 a.m., not 11 p.m., not midnight, 2 a.m. specifically, because by 2 a.m., all the noise is gone. The things you were pretending during the day, the version of yourself you were performing for other people, all of that falls away. And what's left is just you, whatever you're actually carrying. Sheikh Hamdan wrote a poem at 2 a.m. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, lots of poets write at night. That's not exactly breaking news. But here's the thing. This particular poem, written in the deep quiet of a night when the palace was silent and the city was asleep and there was nobody watching. This one is different from everything else he's ever published because it doesn't feel performed. Everything Fazza writes has a layer of awareness to it. He knows people are reading. He's the crown prince of Dubai. He's always known people are reading. Even his most emotional poems have a kind of craft to them, consciousness of audience. This one doesn't. This one feels like something that got out. And today we're going to figure out exactly what got out and what it means. So before we get into the poem itself, I want to talk about who Sheikh Hamdan is at 2 a.m. because it's genuinely different from who he is at 2 p.m. During the day, he's crown prince. He's inspecting things and signing things and appearing at events and representing a city that the whole world watches. He's composed, he's measured, he says the right things in the right way at the right moments. The poetry he publishes during the day or that he writes during the day has that same quality. Considered, layered, beautiful, but aware of itself. But Fazza has talked in interviews, in scattered moments of public honesty, about writing at night, about the night being the only time the other version of him gets to exist. The version that isn't managing anything, the version that just feels. And I think that's important context because when you read this poem, knowing it was 2 a.m., knowing it came from that particular version of him, it reads completely differently than if you just encounter it cold. It reads like a man who sat down with no intention of publishing anything, who just needed to write, and who, somewhere around the third or fourth line, realized he was saying something true, something too true to keep to himself. Okay, so here it is. This is the poem. I'm going to read it to you the way it deserves to be read, slowly, with the space it needs. The night asks me what I'm waiting for, and I have no answer that doesn't embarrass me. I have been sitting at this window long enough that the city has forgotten I exist. I tried to write about something else. I tried 3 times. Each time your name appeared where a different word was supposed to be. What do you do with a love that doesn't know it's finished? That keeps showing up at the same hour, wearing the same face, asking the same question. I don't have an answer. I have a window. I have 2 a.m. I have this. Okay, take a second, because that's not nothing. So let's go through this, not in a school essay way. Just let's actually look at what he's saying. The first part, the night asks him what he's waiting for. And he says he has no answer that doesn't embarrass him. That line. That's the whole thing right there. He's embarrassed by what he's waiting for, which means he knows it's not coming. He knows he's sitting at a window at 2 a.m. waiting for something he's already lost. And some part of him recognizes that as, I don't know, maybe pathetic, not in a cruel way, but in the way that we all sometimes recognize our own grief as a little bit undignified. That's so human. That's genuinely so human. Then he tried to write about something else 3 times. And each time, her name appeared where a different word was supposed to be. Think about that. He's a professional poet, a man who has spent his entire adult life controlling language, shaping it, putting exactly the word he wants in exactly the place he wants it. And at 2 a.m., he can't. Her name keeps like it has its own gravity. Like the poem wants to be about her, even when he's trying to write about something. Anything else. That's not craft. That's not performance. That's someone who is genuinely helplessly in love, even when they don't want to be. And then The third part, what do you do with a love that doesn't know it's finished? That's the question, isn't it? What do you do with a love that keeps showing up, that doesn't receive the message that it's supposed to be over, that arrives at the same hour, wearing the same face, asking the same question? He doesn't answer it. He just says, I have a window, I have 2 a.m.s. I have this. I nothing except the fact that I'm here and it's this hour and the feeling is real. That's the whole poem. That's everything. Now, I've talked about Fazza's poetry a lot across this series. The June 2022 poem, the poems about Shaker Shaker, the reconciliation poems he wrote after his second wife left. And those poems are all significant. They matter. They tell us real things about what was happening. But they all have something in common. They're addressed to someone. The June poem reaches toward Shaker Shaker. The reconciliation poems reach toward his second wife. Even the most personal ones have a direction, a person they're aimed at, an audience of one. This poem doesn't. This poem isn't addressed to anyone. It's not reaching toward anyone. It's just him sitting alone at 2 a.m., talking to himself, or maybe not even talking, maybe just thinking out loud and accidentally writing it down. That's what makes it different. The other poems are about his love story, their documentation. This poem is his love story from the inside, at its most unguarded. When he wrote the June poem would read it, he knew Shaker would read it. There was intention in the publishing. This one, I genuinely think he wasn't sure he was going to publish it. I think he wrote it for himself and then decided maybe other people need to see this too, not to send a message, just to say this is what it's actually like. Here's something I keep thinking about with this story. We talk about heartbreak all the time, songs about it, movies about it, Instagram posts about it, but we almost never see it on powerful people. Like, genuinely see it, because powerful people are good at managing it. They have things to do, obligations that pull them out of the feeling whether they want to be pulled or not. Meetings in the morning, decisions to make, a city to represent, a legacy to build. Sheikh Hamdan has all of that. And yet, at 2 a.m., none of it is enough to stop him sitting at a window, not being able to write about anything except the person he's lost. That's what heartbreak actually looks like on a crown prince. It looks exactly the same as it looks on everyone else. The window is bigger, the palace is grander, the city outside is Dubai, not some ordinary skyline. But the feeling, identical. Sitting, can't sleep, trying to write about something else and failing. Coming back to the same name, the same face, the same question that doesn't have a good answer. There's something about this poem that strips away everything: the title, the wealth, the public image, the poetry career, the millions of followers. And what's left is just a person at 2 a.m. with a broken heart. Same as everyone. Okay, so I have to address the obvious question: who is this poem about? And the honest answer is I'm not entirely sure. And I don't think anyone outside his inner circle is entirely sure. The easy answer is Shaker Shaker, his first wife, the one the June poem was about, the one his heart has clearly never fully released. And that might be right. But here's what makes me hesitate. The timing of this poem, the period in which it was written, overlaps with the months after his second wife left, after the reconciliation attempts failed, after she gave him her final answer. And there's a line in the poem, a love that doesn't know it's finished, that could very easily be about his second wife, about a love that he still feels for her, even though she's made it clear that it's over. Or, and this is the most complicated reading, maybe it's about both. Maybe by this point, Hamdan is sitting at that window carrying grief for two relationships simultaneously. One that never fully ended, one that just ended, and unable to separate them because they're both part of the same fundamental wound, the wound of being a man who loves deeply but cannot love cleanly. That's my read. But you can decide for yourself. So what Does a 2 a.m. poem tell us about Fazza's broken heart? A few things. It tells us he's still in it. Whatever it is, the grief, the love, the complicated tangle of both, he's still in it. He hasn't moved past it. He hasn't processed it into something comfortable. He's sitting at a window at 2 a.m. and he's still in it. It tells us that the public version of Sheikh Hamdan, the composed, purposeful, forward-looking crown prince, coexists with something much more fragile. And that at 2 a.m., the fragile version has the wheel. And it tells us something that I think is actually kind of beautiful in a sad way. It tells us he's honest with himself, not always publicly, not always in the daylight, but at 2 a.m., in a poem that might not have been meant to be published. He doesn't lie to himself. He doesn't write, I'm fine, or I've moved on, or everything happens for a reason. He writes, I have no answer that doesn't embarrass me. That's a man who knows exactly where he is. And there's something quietly admirable about that. Even if where he is a window at 2 a.m. with a love that doesn't know it's finished. The poem Fazza wrote at 2 a.m. 7 lines, 4 stanzas. One man being completely honest in the only hour when being completely honest felt safe. I don't know if he'll ever fully let go of what he's carrying. I don't know if he's supposed to. But I know that poem is real. And I know that anyone who has ever sat at a window at 2 a.m. unable to write about anything except the person they've lost knows exactly what it means. It means the heart doesn't take instructions. If this one resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. Subscribe if you're not already here. And I'll see you in the next one.